Now, normally the park is closed between midnight and 5 a.m. That hasn't happened on this occasion. It stayed open in order for the workmen who are here to construct these giant video screens on which many people will see the service, and also to enable people to spend the night camped out in the park. Now, joining me are two people who will be here beside the route that the cortege will take. Martin Tamlin. Martin, you live in London.
Yes.
An extraordinary past 6 days in the capital.
Quite unprecedented. We saw the palace, Kensington Palace, on Sunday night, and there were flowers a few feet deep then. But we walked across the park at 3 a.m. this morning, and the sea of flowers is quite unbelievable. And the number of people who were out at that time, it was a very emotional time.
And Tony Verdi, you've travelled up from Surrey to be here. What made you decide that you wanted to be here on the day?
Well, I wanted to come up earlier in the week, but it wasn't possible to do so. But the weekend has given me that opportunity, and I really wanted to just join with the other people who are here to express my sadness at Diana's death, and also to express my condolences to the royal family.
A very emotional day. What do you think your feelings will be as the cortege passes here?
Very, very strong. I did my national service in the King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery. I didn't ride horses, but I was in that troop, and they're the troop that is drawing the gun carriage. It will be the most moving thing.
And Martin, for you, what do you think your feelings will be as the cortege passes here today?
I think it's a time for quiet reflection, and I know my wife and I will be very moved indeed, as we have been throughout the week. It's been a difficult week for the entire nation, and I think we just wanted to be out here to share the grief and to show our respect to the Princess and the royal family.
Well, here in Hyde Park, there are expected to be maybe as many as 1 million people coming here throughout the morning. Already people are arriving, more and more are arriving as the morning progresses. The cortege is expected to pass here in around 2 hours' time, near to the Albert Memorial, constructed in 1872 by a nation grieving for the Queen's consort.
James Forlong speaking to us from Hyde Park. Thank you very much indeed. Grief, shock, anger, all emotions surrounding Diana's death. Her family has now filed a civil suit in Paris in connection with her death. It came as Dodi Fayed's father, Mohammed, released security video pictures showing the last moments of Diana and his son. The Harrods boss said he wanted to prove that their driver from the Ritz Hotel wasn't drunk when he drove the couple that fateful night.
On the eve of the funeral, these, the very last images of the very last hours of a princess and her companion, were released to the world. The security cameras caught Diana as she and Dodi Al Fayed entered the Ritz Hotel in Paris, almost like any other carefree, happy couple. The Al Fayeds, the owners of the Ritz, released the pictures as proof that this man, Henri Paul, was not drunk when he entered the hotel, nor when more than 2 hours later he accompanied the princess and Mr. Al Fayed out of the rear entrance. It was Mr. Paul who then drove them a kilometre or so before crashing into the 13th pillar in the tunnel by the Alma Bridge over the River Seine. The pictures show a large crowd of photographers and onlookers gathered at the hotel's front entrance on the Place Vendôme. Yet it's doubtful, to say the least, whether they disapprove the assertion by the French medical authorities that the driver was way over the alcohol limit. His family have cancelled his funeral, which was to have coincided with the princess's today, in a bid to clear his name through a new blood test. Yet as they did so, the French investigators admitted that they have now widened their investigation to all employees of the Ritz. Legal action against the hotel appears to be coming ever closer. Yet most French men and women will today be concentrating on the events in London, rather than on the convoluted search here for the culprit of last week's tragedy.
Like people all around the world, much of the French population will be glued to their television screens this morning. Yet in the country where the princess died, the authorities have decided against making even a symbolic gesture to mark her funeral.
The only ones who have are the British stores that have set up shop in Paris. W.H. Smith will close during the service in Westminster Abbey. Others will open late, or like Laura Ashley, where the princess herself sometimes shopped, force all their clients to ponder the moment.
As a mark of respect for Diana, Princess of Wales, will observe 2 minutes silence today in all Laura Ashley stores all over Europe.
The biggest and most British of all stores to grace the French capital has its flags at half-mast. Here too, the lights will be dimmed and a silence observed.
The Princess visited this store in 1988, and many customers will remember that time as well as many of the staff will remember it as well. From the comments we received, I think people in France feel very similar to the people in England. Very, very upset.
And today, many of them will watch the scenes across the channel and share the morning expressed there. Arnaud van Linden, Sky News, Paris.
In London, people were prepared to stay up all night in order to be able to pass on their last respects to Diana, Princess of Wales, as her cortege and procession passes them in the streets of London. As you can see from these pictures, young and old, happy to wait for hours and hours to pass their respects to Diana. Emotion perhaps of the week, having caught up with that little person and resting for just a short while before the procession proper starts at about 9 o'clock this morning. Joining us now is our correspondent Tim Marshall. Tim, you have been there since early this morning. It was very cold, but people were prepared to wait all night to witness the last passing of Diana, Princess of Wales.
They were. We turned up sort of 4 or 5 o'clock. It was still dark. It was a very clear night, no clouds in the sky. You could see the stars, and of course that makes it actually colder. And as we walked down Constitution Hill here from Hyde Park Corner, the whole of Constitution Hill was lined with people in sleeping bags, some sitting up reading by torchlight, some just talking quietly with themselves or left with their own thoughts. It was quite moving, actually. Awful lot of candles were flickering all the way down the hill, and it was quite a sight. Many hundreds of people were here all night, but now many thousands are pouring in here now. And I'm joined by one who today is a member of the public. You will know her, though. This is Tessa Sanderson, who's joined us. As I say, Tessa, good morning. Today you're here as a member of the public.
That's right. I just felt I really had to be here, actually. I'd met the Princess on several occasions. I met her about 2 years after she got married at Hampton Court. And we shared a box window together, and we were just laughing and joking about the jesting that was going on outside. And the moment I heard she died, I just cried all morning. And, we had a recording to do, and I think it was one of the most saddest times ever. And the shock of it is because she's so young, and she did so many things, and she cared for so many people. And having met her myself, I genuinely wanted to be here because I knew she was such a genuine and, heartwarming person. So I've been here since about 4 o'clock. My friend and I just walking about, came down yesterday, went to Kensington Palace. And I think it's so much better that you can express your feelings. So just being here, just to see the cortege go past and everything.
So I didn't realise you'd been here that long, and you haven't staked out a place. What are you doing? Are you soaking up an atmosphere in a sense of sharing that atmosphere?
Yes, I mean, there's as you can see, there's millions and thousands and millions of people going to be down here, and you make friends, you chat to people. We went over to Westminster Abbey yesterday, saw some people there, shared some laughs with them, had cups of teas, walk around there again after I've dumped my car off about 2 miles from here, and you just keep on walking because you have a sense of belonging. You meet people who you've never met before, and it's just such a wonderful, wonderful friendship.
What do you think your feelings will be as the cortege passes? It's your last goodbye to someone you knew.
I think it'll be the worst moment of my life so far, because for those people who are not emotional, I'm sure they will get emotional. It's going to be a very choking moment, and I'm sure there'll be lots and lots of tears because it's just such a pointless death, and it was really such a big loss. And I saw the pictures of Harry and William yesterday, and it's just truly devastating. Really is devastating, and there'll be a lot of tears, really.
Tessa Sanderson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
As I said, that Tessa today, very much just another member of the public. Today is quite a leveller, okay?
Tim, thank you.
And we can cross now back to Simon McCoy, who's at Westminster Abbey. Good morning to you again, Simon.
Morning again, Lauren.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the input to this service? Because I think some people have been remarking on the fact that the Spencer family, of course, playing a large role, but no real role for the royal family, is there?
Well, not really, no. This has been a very complicated funeral to arrange. And uppermost in everybody's thoughts is that the Earl Spencer and his family, Diana's family, should have the final say as to who was here, the form the service should take. The complication, if you like, was always going to be that Diana was a member of the royal family, and they would have to accommodate the royal family accordingly. But I think the Spencers have made it absolutely clear, and they made it clear only 2 days ago when he disinvited some of the tabloid editors that had been invited by the Lord Chamberlain's office from Buckingham Palace, that this is a family funeral, and as such they wanted to be treated with such respect. And we're going to, through this service, surprised a lot of people. We won't actually see or hear any members of the royal family. Many people felt Prince Charles may read a lesson or contribute to the service in some way. That's not going to happen. Tony Blair, the Prime Minister, will read a lesson. Lady Sarah McCorquodale, Diana's sister, will have a reading, as will her other sister, Lady Jane Fellows, who's married to the Queen's private secretary. But there is no direct involvement from members of the royal family. And I think that's as much because Prince Charles will want to be with his two sons, William and Harry, throughout the service. Let's not forget these two boys this day. It is going to be a dreadful, grieving day for them, and an ordeal for them to get through. And I think everybody is conscious within the royal family that it is to the two boys that they must pay their attention. And as far as the service is concerned, it's a celebration of the life of Diana, Princess of Wales. And I think Earl Spencer also wants to make it a family affair for him, with due reference to the fact that she was a member of the royal family. Now, first guests will arrive here at Westminster Abbey at about 10:15, and then what will happen is at 10:35 the Spencer family will start to arrive. 5 minutes later at 10:40, the minor members of the royal family, the Duke and Duchess of Kent and Prince Michael, Princess Michael of Kent, other junior members of the royal family will arrive. 10:50 this morning, the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen Mother are expected to arrive. Now, obviously, a lot of attention is going to be focused on those who were seen as Diana's friends within the royal family, and I'm thinking particularly this morning of Sarah, Duchess of York, who left flowers at Kensington Palace yesterday, and the card read quite simply, "My most darling friend, sister, my Dutch." Now, that was the nickname that Fergie called Diana. "I love you and miss you, my soulmate and partner. God bless you, Fergie." This is going to be an awful day for everybody, obviously, who knew Diana, but particularly for those like Fergie, who saw the difficult times as well as the good times. And no doubt going through Fergie's mind, as it will many members of the royal family. This, of course, the venue, Westminster Abbey, of that royal wedding in 1986, when Prince Andrew and the then Sarah Ferguson were married. And I think the emphasis today for everybody is that this is a time for personal moments, personal thoughts. Those that knew her will remember those moments, be reliving them with the final realization, I think, that Diana has gone. It's a time to look back at them. And as the Queen has said in her speech last night, many people who'd never met her felt that they knew her. And everybody will have their own specific thoughts, moments, images of Diana will be flashing through their minds today. And of course, we won't see Diana today. We will never see Diana again. And the realization of that is sinking in here this morning. Many people here weren't able to see the funeral, the cortege, the hearse, leave St James's to go to Kensington Palace last night. They were keeping their places here at the Abbey. So the first time they see that hearse arrive this morning, the coffin on the back of the gun carriage, is going to be a devastating moment, because it's the final realization that Diana has gone.
And of course we know the palace has said this will be an ordeal for the boys, and it's going to be their decision, isn't it, whether or not they actually follow on the gun carriage from Kensington Palace.
Yeah, and I think it has impressed everybody, and absolutely everybody, over the recent days, how Prince William and Prince Harry have coped under the strain of this dreadful event. There was criticism, you may remember, when they went to church within hours of Diana's death, and that, I think, started off the unease with the way the royal family was dealing with this whole event. And then, of course, when they were seen at Balmoral, at Crathy Church 2 days ago, they had been crying, it was quite clear, but there were no tears, and they read the cards, they saw the flowers, and we saw the two boys were okay. They were all right, and there was a feeling of relief at that. And then yesterday, there's amazing scenes at Kensington Palace where they were able to talk to people, they were able to accept people's gratitude and you know, are you all right? Yes, I'm all right. Thank you very much for asking. That was such a reassuring feeling, I think, for everybody to see that they were both coping. Now, everybody, I think, is hoping that they will be walking behind the carriage procession today, but if they're not, not anybody will criticise them for it. Everybody will understand. I think on judging on those pictures yesterday, I think there's a strong chance that they will be taking a very active part in this procession today, and I think that'll just add to the whole poignancy of what is happening later on this morning.
Simon McCoy at Westminster Abbey, thank you very much.
Many millions of people heading towards the centre of London today to pay their last respects to Diana. Wet overnight, hopefully a little better during the day?
Well, certainly we had some heavy showers last night. Those cleared away, and under those clear skies, the London area actually turned quite cold. Temperatures falling back to single figures, around 9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. But of course, those clear skies do mean that it's a fairly bright morning. We will see the cloud increase as time goes on, as rain spreads down from the northwest, but that's unlikely to reach southernmost counties until around 6 or 7 o'clock this evening, and temperatures around 20 Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
A week that scarred a nation. A week that touched the world. As Diana is laid to rest, Sky News remembers the way the country has mourned this tragic death.
She was just a wonderful woman.
She was really kind to people.
She's in the hearts of nearly everybody.
I think the whole world has lost a very, very special person.
The week the world wept for Diana, tonight at 6:30 on Sky News.
She'll be remembered as the Queen of Hearts. She'll also be remembered as a straight talker, telling politicians what she thought, especially about landmines. Joining us now is our political editor, Adam Bolton. She certainly said what she thought, didn't she, Adam?
Well, yes, certainly towards the end of her life, as she began to realise her own character and her power to speak out in the media, she did. Ironically, her last public pronouncement was to suggest that the last government had been hopeless on that issue of landmines, although, of course, protocol dictated that those comments were played down. We're told, incidentally, that there are now some 10,000 people just in this area outside Buckingham Palace. The police estimate that around 30,000 people slept rough overnight, waiting to greet the funeral cortege. They've been greeted this morning with donations of coffee from groups such as the Salvation Army. Ironically, a beautiful day. Buckingham Palace looks very fine. The royal family assembling there to go to the funeral. We understand from the palace they will be able to give us details of the royal procession within the next hour or so. Here I am joined by a politician, David Mellor, the former Conservative MP and Minister, of course, and an expert on the media as well. And David Mellor, as you look around here with the world's media gathered, the Klieg lights, the cameras, and all of that, there's a great sort of ambiguity to this situation, isn't there?
Yes, you know, you see the focus of the world very much on London at the moment, but you wonder quite what messages are going back.
Why is that? Because the press, if you like, played a part in causing this tragedy?
No, I think it's a question of you know, the message that's going back perhaps is of Diana, the secular saint. And you've got to ask where that's going to leave people after the funeral. You know, I mean, she will become a sort of Evita figure magnified tenfold. But where it leaves the rest of the occupants of that palace, I think is more questionable, don't you? I mean, the pressure that there was on the Queen earlier to actually come out and be seen to be openly joining with the people in their grief with the rest of the family. I think the legacy of Diana will make it appear that the one charismatic member of the family is gone, making the job of the rest of them that are left perhaps that much more difficult, because they're always going to be compared to an ideal that they probably won't be able to live up to.
And what about the potency of Princess Diana as a positive political force? Let's take the landmines campaign. Do you think that now her lasting monument will be that America and other countries will sign up to abandon landmines?
It would be nice to think so. I personally think that countries have a right to defend themselves, but just in the indiscriminate sowing of landmines that once they're sown can remain potent for decades is awful, and it would be nice to think that would happen. I'm bound to say too that we really mustn't forget the increasingly awful stories that are coming out about what those paparazzi did, including the suggestion yesterday that they moved her body in the back of the car in order to get a better shot.
Should say there are also claims that many of them were responsible photographers.
Yeah, well, they would say that, wouldn't they? But the point is, something that deals with, no one objects to legitimate reporting of things, even inconvenient things, even things that Princess Diana and a lot of other people wouldn't want reported. But this constant harassment, morning, noon and night, by photographers, I would be very sad if after her death there wasn't some change. I'm wondering whether there will be, but I'd be very sad if there wasn't some.
But she was someone, though, who used the cameras and the publicity for her own ends as well. So isn't, in a sense, the intense coverage justified?
I think when you're thrust... Well, the intense coverage of her as a public person, fine. I think what people are talking about is a fairly narrow segment. We're not talking about legitimate reporting here. We're talking about guys on motorbikes, some of them with previous convictions, like the fellow they had to injunct in London, just riding after her and making a nuisance of themselves. So the poor woman couldn't go out at any point. I just think it's the intensity of that drives people then, frankly, to do foolish things. It was foolish beyond belief that driver was driving at that speed through that underpass. But we mustn't forget the fact that if the paparazzi hadn't been there, it wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have driven at that speed. And I do not understand why the legitimate media needs creatures like those guys on motorbikes. They don't need them.
David Mellor, thanks very much indeed for those points. And while we were talking, the first officials leaving Buckingham Palace there in dark cars.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Today's funeral for Diana will break with the strict formal tradition normally associated with such an event. The Queen has described it as a unique occasion for a unique person. It'll be different from any other time that Britain has mourned its kings, queens and statesmen this century.
It is the Ledger of Death, the original document that recorded in extraordinary detail every single cost of Queen Victoria's lavish state funeral. From the very stout lead coffin at £13 and 10 shillings to the 5 shillings paid to the artisan who inscribed the bronze plate on the casket. The funeral for the Empire's longest reigning monarch cost £594 in 1901. That's about £58,000 today. This was an ordered and sombre ceremony that fitted the times. An age of great social division when grief had its own formal structure.
There were basically 3 stages of mourning. The first would be full or deep mourning, and that was the most severe. It lasted about 6 months, and people had the really severe costume restrictions to what they could and couldn't wear.
The funerals of George V and George VI were also huge state occasions. The people were obedient observers, not participants. These were gatherings of the great and the good, the royalty of Europe mingling with the country's aristocracy.
The list would have come straight out of Tibet's peerage, whereas now we've got fashion designers, singers, ordinary people that Diana knew, victims of AIDS and so on, ordinary people that she knew. We're in the phone book. We're not, we're not in Debrett's peerage anymore.
The trappings of death at the turn of the century were elaborate. The funeral ceremony highly stylized in an age when death was much more part of life.
The Victorians knew what they were doing. Death was very much part of their society. There was a lot of practice. So I think we're less organised in the way, we're less prepared for death when it actually happens. So that's one of the reasons why it's much more difficult for modern people to adjust to the actual realities of death.
Today's ceremony will have little in common with the great state funerals of this century. This was the cortege of Earl Mountbatten as the procession headed towards Westminster Abbey. The large military escort will be missing today, as well as the funeral march of the massed bands.
The use of the band highlighted the poignancy of the day.
and it also alerted to the person that the funeral procession was on its way. This won't be the same when it comes to Diana, Princess of Wales's funeral. There will not be the associated music. Instead, there will be the long shot of the eye that will be needed to be able to signify the approach of the cortege.
It's now been 96 years since the funeral of Queen Victoria. Today, it's the ordinary people who've led the country in mourning, laying siege to central London. But what does this collective expression of grief tell us about ourselves?
We'd like to feel we're going to live forever. And I think this shows that even the most glamorous, the most important public figures, the most loved icons, if you like, are just as mortal as the rest of us. And if they're mortal, we must be extremely mortal. So I think there's a collective feeling of the fragility of life, really.
But more than that, perhaps, this was a week that saw significant changes in the way we remember those we've loved. The Victorian stiff upper lip, replaced by a shared grief that for once transcends all social divisions. Peter Sharp, Sky News in London.
With us now in the studio is Christopher Morgan, religious affairs correspondent of the Sunday Times. Good morning to you, Christopher.
Morning.
Very little of tradition in today's service at all, in fact.
Yes, some people have talked about it being a blend of old and new, but there really is a lot of new. I think the only really traditional element is going to be the sentences at the opening as the cortege moves through the Abbey. That's from the Book of Common Prayer. Then the rest of the service is really crafted and designed for this occasion.
A tremendous range of music.
Extraordinary. And we've got Verdi's Requiem, a modern hymn, Make Me a Channel of Your Peace, and then a very Welsh hymn, Cwmrondda, sung familiar to people at the Welsh rugby games at Cardiff Arms Park. Of course, the Princess was patron of the Welsh Rugby Union.
And of course, Elton John.
Can you repeat that?
How is the church, has it reacted to this demand for such a different kind of service?
Well, I've found from senior clergy, great admiration for the Dean of Westminster. He seems to have brought all this together with some innovation, great skill. He and George Carey, the Archbishop of Canterbury, wrote some of the prayers that are going to be used, composed them specially for this occasion. It's thought he's been able to bring all these elements together very successfully.
And what about the choice of readings?
There's going to be one scripture reading read by the Prime Minister from St. Paul's letters to the Corinthians about love. That's going to be actually from the King James Version of the Bible, familiar to many people, but he'll use the word love instead of charity. Then there will be poetry readings by Diana's sisters and, of course, a tribute from Earl Spencer. And I don't think anyone knows what Earl Spencer is going to say. The Dean said he expected to hear for the first time what Earl Spencer was going to say as he speaks this morning.
Do you think that this is, as we say, totally unique, that it may, though, set some kind of a pattern for future funerals of this kind?
I think it will, because it will mean in future people take much more care over funerals. They will design them and create them for the occasion.
Christopher, for the moment, thank you very much.
Paying tribute now to Diana, the most photographed woman in the world. It's Saturday, the 6th of September. Today, the world witnesses a royal family in mourning. Britain, too, prepares its final farewell to Diana, Princess of Wales. Tens of thousands have already gathered on the cold, wet streets of the capital, lining the final journey of the princess. Many have camped out all night. Others arrived before dawn, so many that police closed off Parliament Square and the area near Westminster Abbey because those locations became full.
Today's funeral has been described by Buckingham Palace as a unique occasion for a unique person. It'll be the culmination of a week of national grief never before seen in Britain and shared in countries around the world. Millions will line the route of the funeral cortege.
At 9 o'clock, Diana's body will be moved from her home at Kensington Palace and taken on a gun carriage to Westminster Abbey, a journey that will last an hour and 47 minutes. After the service, she'll be taken for burial in the grounds of her ancestral home in Northamptonshire. Sky News is on the air all day with uninterrupted live coverage of today's events.
At the heart of those events, of course, Westminster Abbey. We can cross now to Simon McCoy, our correspondent there. Good morning to you again, Simon.
Morning, Laurie.
What's the atmosphere there at the moment?
Well, sombre is the one word that will be used to sum up the feeling of the crowd here. Any anger, any unease that there has been in recent days has evaporated, not just because of the Queen's message last night, although that has played a part, but because it has finally dawned on everybody here that this is the day where we do say goodbye to Diana. After a week where everybody was looking back and remembering her and seeing pictures of her on television and in the newspapers, I think it has actually... people are now realising that we have lost her, that she is gone, and that by the end of today we will have said a final farewell. The focus will be the service. I'm joined by Sky's religious affairs commentator, Lawrence Spicer. Lawrence, we've been saying all week the important thing was to get the mix right. Do you think, looking at the service, that they have?
It's one of the things, the Church of England really does get right. They're able to do this in a remarkable way. And at this particular service, looking through the order of service, which is this glorious, pompous put round, but you look into it and you see there's the mixture of the solemn music, you see there's a mixture of happiness, of thumping tunes, of this sort of thing, which is good. Of course it will be solemn in points, but at the same time it will be cheerful as befits the person they're talking about. I mean, thank heavens we've long since gone past the days of the dirges and the tolling of the muffled bell. This is going to represent the person whom we're remembering and whom we're saying goodbye to.
It's been an amazing week. We've seen two establishments, the church and Buckingham Palace, being forced to change things because the public wanted them to do so.
Ah, yes, it's those people down there that have done this. And it is very interesting because there is a slight gulf, I feel now, standing there across the huge splendour of Westminster Abbey across the road, which is slightly cold and slightly grey, and down the colourful people who are, as you say, sombre, some of them carrying little candles which are alight, etc. Even at this hour, I'm presumably going to hold them right the way through the day. And there you begin to see the crossover between the spirituality of the people down there, and I won't accuse them all of being people who believe in God or anything, but who believe in the person who's gone and want to say their bit, and indeed the church, which is there to do its bit, which is to do the solemn part, but not too solemn.
Lawrence, we'll be talking to you later in the day. Of course, the focus today is on Diana, Princess of Wales. We say farewell to her. We also share the grief of the two boys, William and Harry. We also remember the work Diana did, and of course the charities will be well represented here this morning. And the most recent one, the one that she was so careful to make sure was the centre of so much attention, was the issue of landmines. Now we're joined by Chris Moon, who is attending today's service, who's a friend of the programme's. You lost an arm and a leg to a landmine and have worked closely on this whole issue with Diana. What thoughts are going to go through your mind today?
Well, it's a sad farewell, isn't it? We're going into church. We commit Diana to God, and I think also in this time of sadness, on this sombre occasion, I think it's important to bear in mind that she was enormously committed to doing something for people with disabilities, the disadvantaged, and I think that we must strive to make a fitting legacy, that we must in the future make a fitting memorial with renewed efforts to support the charities that she did so much for.
It's well known what she did for the landmines cause, indeed for all her charities, but it was the personal way in which she did it. People just felt they knew her, even if they didn't meet her, and those that met her loved her a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. Just a remarkable person who was so magnetic, who had just an incredible ability to inspire people, to make people feel at ease in so many ways. Also someone with a tremendous sense of fun, and who, dealing with charities and a number of things that I did fundraising for, was very supportive. And also on this sombre occasion, I think it is worth remembering that this was someone who had a great sense of humour and who was great fun. And yes, I think flowers are a fitting tribute, but I think there is a lot more that we can do and must try to do in the future.
Everybody here today and around the world will have their own private memories, events that involve Diana. What memory will you have today?
I think for me, something that I will always remember is attending a lunch with her in which my knife sprang out of my fool's hand, leaving a trail of gravy on the table, at which point she laughed and rubbed it in with her finger, which I thought was amazing. So I think things like that, that's, I think, for me, how I would prefer to remember her today.
Chris, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Well, Chris, one of the many hundreds who will be here in the Westminster Abbey area today, but let's not forget, this is the focus of the nation's mourning and indeed of the world's mourning. Everybody today is saying farewell to someone who, in a way unique, has captured the hearts of the world. And by the end of today, I think the reality will have sunk in that we will not be seeing her again.
Simon McCoy, thank you. Sky News is broadcasting the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales, to 430 million people in 60 countries today. Others prefer to pay personal tribute to her. Scotland Yard estimates at least 30,000 people have camped out on the 4-mile route of the funeral procession overnight. The mourners are said to be showing respectful calm, comforting and supporting one another.
Dawn on one of the saddest September mornings in recent history, as mourners, young and old, gather to say farewell to a remarkable woman.
She would have changed the world. She's had a terrific impact on it in no time at all.
And some of those who can't get into Westminster Abbey will watch on 3 giant TV screens.
I think it's a way of showing that we care. I mean, we've brought some flowers that we're going to deliver after the service, but it was just the only way I could think of saying, yes, we also care.
The guest list for the Abbey ceremony are mainly Diana's friends. They include Hillary Clinton. She and the US President are said to be devastated. Overnight, thousands camped out on chilly pavements along the funeral route.
Well, we've got a sleeping bag and we've got 2 blankets. We didn't carry it, we just pushed it in the... So, you know, that's the way we look at it.
You must have thought...
And I've got socks as well.
You must have thought a lot about Diana to go through all this.
I thought she's lovely.
And Diana's appeals span the generations. These youngsters prepared to camp out all night just to be there to pay their respects.
It's been okay. The weather's good, so it's cosy in here, and it's been really good.
How are you going to spend the night?
Probably just watching what's going on. I doubt that we're asleep. So
why was it so important to be?
Because Princess Diana cared for people, and now it's good that we can show her that we appreciated what she'd done.
Today won't be easy for those who adored Diana. For sure, there'll be tears and time for quiet reflection.
We're moving up to the central barrier, and I'm a bit worried about coping with it, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Dozens of extra trains have been rolling into the capital. This is one of the first, with families who feel they just need to be there.
She was a special person, obviously. I think we just want to be there with everybody sharing. We can't capture that at home.
Diana had a special love of children, and to them, she was precious too.
I wanted to pay my respects to Diana because I thought she was a very special woman. I feel sorry for the 2 boys, so I feel we should help them. And Diana was a very special person to everybody.
John Cookson, Sky News, Central London.
Well, so great is the public determination to say their farewells that by 4:30 this morning, police had decided the area near Westminster Abbey and in Parliament Square simply couldn't take any more people. And they appealed to the public to avoid those locations and go to other parts of the 4-mile route.
Diana's final journey begins at Kensington Palace. Her coffin, placed on a gun carriage by 8 Welsh guards, will pass through the gates to begin the procession to Westminster Abbey, a journey lasting 1 hour and 47 minutes. In silence, it'll pass through Hyde Park, along Carriage Drive, past Hyde Park Corner and under Wellington Arch. More than 500 representatives of the charities associated with the Princess will be waiting in Marlborough Road, near St James's Palace. Prince Charles and possibly Princes William and Harry will also join here. Then for the final mile to the Abbey via Horse Guards Parade, Whitehall and Parliament Square. The funeral service is expected to last around 3/4 of an hour. Afterwards, Diana's coffin will be placed in a hearse for the 77-mile journey to Althorp, retracing its path before heading through North London to the M1 motorway, bound for the Princess's final resting place. Newly consecrated ground on a small island on the Spencer family estate. As we say, Diana's last journey will begin at Kensington Palace at just after 9 o'clock this morning, a place where Diana stayed with her sons, perhaps a fitting tribute that she should begin her final journey from a place that she loved. Jake Lynch is there. Jake, people have been up all night there as well.
Well, here at Kensington Palace, thousands of people have gathered. Some of them came in the middle of the night. They've come to see the start of the funeral procession, which will emerge from the gates behind me in just under an hour's time. I'm joined by two of those who've come down. First of all, Patricia, how long have you been here?
I've been here about an hour and a half now.
And of all the images of Princess Diana which we've seen this week, which one comes most readily to your mind? How do you think of her?
I think of her as an immense person, in that many people from all different walks of life were able to relate to her on so many different levels, especially in her ability to love.
Now tell me something. Of course, you would see actually far more of today's proceedings if you had stayed at home and watched television. Why was it so important to you to come down and make one last personal connection with the Princess?
I think because I simply adored her, in that I was able to relate to her on many different levels, through pain, heartache, her love for children, her immense healing powers.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. If I may move on to you, Helen. You came here rather earlier, I believe, about 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's right, yeah.
What kind of scene greeted you on your arrival here?
We're walking through the park with the candles lit and the flares and flowers. It was really quite ethereal. It was very, very quiet, apart from the hums of the generators. It was worth it just to see that, apart from anything else.
Of course, that image captured in the title of the Elton John song, which will be played in the funeral, Candles in the Wind, seems to sort of sum up the barely expressible sorrow that many people feel at this tragic event.
Quite possibly.
It seems to go somewhere very deep, doesn't it? I mean, for you personally, why was it so important to you to come down here and make a personal connection?
Well, I felt that I'd grown up with her being of a similar age, and I'd always lived in the same area as her and seen her from time to time on an informal basis. I think she came across as being very genuine, very informal. And I think people admired the fortitude she showed at what must have been very, very difficult times for her personally.
Okay, and when you see the cortege passing by here, just under an hour's time now, what kind of images of Diana, what kind of thoughts of her will you call to mind most readily, do you think?
I would say definitely the ones where she looked more relaxed, happy, informal and smiling. Hopefully not the ones where we saw her looking rather more distressed.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we're joined also by a rather younger guest, I see. Tell me, what's your name?
Anwar.
Anwar, and how do you think of Princess Diana, Anwar?
I think she was a very nice person, and it's a shame she had to die so young.
And what was it she did that you particularly liked?
She helped all the people who had AIDS and everything like that.
And did you ever meet Princess Diana yourself?
Yes.
But nevertheless, you feel you want to come down here to say your own goodbye?
Yes.
Okay, Anwar, thank you very much indeed. Thank you too, ladies. Well, that gives you some flavour of what's in people's minds as they prepare for this very sad occasion, which they've also said should be an occasion to remember all the good things Diana did, of course, which it is for many people. So with that, from here at Kensington Palace, where we expect the cortege in little under an hour, back to the studio.
Thank you very much indeed, Jake. And the Archbishop of Canterbury has been paying tribute this morning to the flair, courage and extraordinary beauty of Diana, Princess of Wales. Dr. George Carey said that she should not have died so needlessly and so young. But he went on to warn that during a period of unprecedented national mourning, we shouldn't portray her as superhuman. Well, let's cross to Emma Hurd now, who's on the route at the Mall. Emma, I think a lot of people do almost raise her to the status of being superhuman, don't they? What is the feeling there this morning?
Well, really, the feeling here, Laurie, is very much the same as it has been all week. The outpouring of grief has been immense here. There's been sombre music played over some of the tannoys, which is really just adding to the mood. This is one of the key points along the route. This is where many of the charity workers, the 500 charity workers will be walking behind that cortege, will be gathering behind the cortege here and then carrying on to Westminster Abbey. And I have with me here two people who will be watching as that cortege goes past. Joining me are Val Clements and Marie Davey, both of you from Oxford. Tell me, what do you think of the atmosphere here today?
It's really great. Yeah, lots of people here and loads of flowers, and it's really good.
Marie, I understand that you've seen Princess Diana many times before as part of your job as a traffic warden. You've helped control the traffic as she's made public appearances. How important was she to you?
Very important, because she was the type of person that the royal family needed to kick them into the 20th century. She was definitely a people's princess, and I thought she was wonderful. There's nobody going to replace her, as far as I'm concerned.
And why did you feel the need to actually come here today?
I've seen her before several times, but I just felt yesterday, I thought, right, that's it, I've got to go to London, I've got to do something. And now that I've got here, it's amazing. I mean, it's so quiet here, besides the traffic going past, you know, the cleaning up. But the people, you can see, you've only got to look at the flowers to realise what the rest of the world thought of Diana. She was wonderful.
And what did you think of the royal family's response to this? Obviously, the Queen made that speech yesterday. Do you think that now the public sympathy is with them?
I was, like a lot of others, that I was quite angry that they didn't put a flag on the top of Buckingham Palace. And I thought, you know, staying in Scotland was not on. But after seeing the Queen's speech, I've mellowed a bit, and I realise they have to grieve. But I think the people need them as well, and I'm very pleased that they have done what they've done.
Well, there is now an air of expectation here building as the time approaches when that cortege will be coming past this place on the Mall. The scent of the flowers is wafting over here, just adding to the atmosphere, which really is quite tense, in fact. People are just standing, waiting, looking towards Buckingham Palace, waiting for Diana to make that journey down this way.
Indeed. Well, it's not just people in London who are mourning the princess today. Of course, tributes around Britain and indeed around the world. Emotions especially high in Wales as people prepare to mourn their princess there. In Cardiff, video screens have been set up to relay the Westminster Abbey funeral service.
For the Princess of Wales, the people of Wales gather to say their final goodbyes. At Cardiff's Llandaff Cathedral, these video screens will relay live the funeral from Westminster Abbey. The invited congregation will join in with both prayer and song. 1,500 public spaces were allocated within hours of being made available.
People will be able to actually participate and say the prayers and sing the hymns. When the hymns are sung, the sound will be turned down and our own organist will play, and the same hymns will be sung.
The only statue for which the princess ever posed at Cardiff's St David's Hall has become a focus for the country's grief. Diana posed for Welsh sculptor Robert Thomas at Kensington Palace when she was just 26.
She'll always be young in this, won't she? We'll court her in the young princess with 2 little children to bring up and to go on with her career, which we know she's done so much in the 10 years that have passed since I modelled this portrait.
Around the cathedral, the area is now sealed off. There'll be no admission without a special ticket. The service is being held, say the organisers, as a simple gesture from the people of Wales to the princess who bore their name. Martin Lowe, Sky News, Cardiff.
According to some estimates, 6 million people in London for today's funeral. A look at the weather for them, Joe.
Good morning to you. Well, certainly at the moment the skies are fairly clear. It's going to be a bright morning, but we will see the clouds starting to increase as time goes on as rain spreads in from the northwest. Now this will travel its way both southwards and eastwards through the course of the day, reaching Northamptonshire around 5 or 6 this afternoon, and then London about an hour or so later. Much of the heavy rain will be to the north for North Wales across to the Wash. Down in the south and remaining dry through much of the day, fairly bright, and temperatures around 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit.
The nation pays its last respects. Sky News looks back over this sad day in a one-hour special, tonight at 8.
Well, Diana will be remembered by many for her love of children. The devotion she showed to her 2 boys and the love she had for the children she met during visits to schools and hospitals. Thousands of children have been paying tribute to the princess with words and flowers.
Special assembly at Queenswell Junior School in Whetstone in North London. Many of the pupils here have been to central London to lay flowers for Diana at the gates of the palaces. The children read prayers that they'd written.
Now that she is dead, we know that the world will never be the same again. Amen.
Dear Lord, help us to remember Diana, Princess of Wales. We will always remember the princess as a wonderful woman who gave so much love to people.
The princess's death has a particular poignancy for reader Sam Ostrove. It was his 9th birthday last Sunday, the day Diana died. Despite their young years, the children are very aware of who they're commemorating.
We're making flowers for Princess Diana because she died. We're drawing flowers and a message for her. I'm going to make another pink flower over here, and I'm going to put my message down here.
What's the message going to say?
Diana, thank you for loving us as we love you.
Death has particularly affected children living near the Spencer family home in Northamptonshire. Matthew Bason played for fellow pupils at Trinity Upper School on the school's century-old organ. A book of condolences has been opened for the pupils. Almost all have signed it. Parents and staff at this and many other schools have been surprised by the strength of children's feelings. But the younger generation says Diana was as visible to them as she was to adults.
And I think that she was a very nice lady, and words can't express how people feel about her.
We should remember her for all the good things she did, because I don't think that the world has lost a person. I think the world has lost a very important princess, someone that people should never ever forget.
She was a person who motivated lives of the people and put us the extra spark into the people who basically had very little to live for.
I think she should be remembered as the caring Queen of Hearts that she really was.
The Trinity Upper School will be sending its book of condolences to the Spencer family as a permanent tribute to the Queen of Hearts. Kate Chaxfield, Sky News, Northampton.
Ironically, the advice from the police and many other people today has been not to take young children along to the funeral route. Let's see how things are shaping up at Queen Victoria Memorial now outside Buckingham Palace. We join Tim Marshall, our correspondent there. Good morning to you, Tim. Is there evidence of many young people there, many children?
There are lots of children, although there are very few of toddlers, perhaps young children who will be in prams. But already you can see behind me, we're getting the crowds beginning to build up. I'd say, 4 or 5 deep lining the pavements. This is Constitution Hill, and this is both sides. We are actually joined by a young family here. This is Mr. and Mrs. Hall, Jackie and Greg Hall, and they've brought with them their small son, you can see here. Good morning to you. Now, can we ask you first, Mr. Hall, there has been some worry about bringing small children along. You feel it's okay?
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe and it's well handled. I think everybody's handled it today very well, actually, so far.
You've also made the effort to put on what is basically funeral attire and to come all the way down here from across East London. Why?
Well, to show our respects for a beautiful person, and I regard it as a sort of state funeral today, so it's a family thing to come along to, you know.
Jackie, your husband said it's something of a state funeral. Now, officially it isn't, but what is this? What is this day all about in your mind?
I just think that it's just such a sad day, and rather than watch it on the TV, we just wanted to come and make it like a personal gesture rather than just sit indoors and watch it on telly. And as we could make it today, it's what we felt like we needed to do.
The Prime Minister came out with the phrase "the People's Princess" last week. Is that the way you feel?
Definitely. Yeah, she just, I don't think she would ever be replaced. I just think she was lovely.
The whole family, thank you very much. We can move just across a little bit. We're joined by a member of the St John Ambulance Brigade, Hugh Chambers. Good morning to you, Hugh.
Yes, good morning.
How many of your officers are on duty and how busy have you been so far?
We've got a total of 1,200 personnel on duty, and fortunately, because of the weather, it's been quite a peaceful morning.
Any incidents?
No, a few collapses, but that's just people generally tired from waiting all night.
Well, in that case, do you suspect there will be more because as the hours pass?
We certainly hope not on this particularly sad day, but of course we're here for care and comfort should anyone need us.
Now, we've seen the weather. We've got a clear blue sky above us. We've got a very pleasant early autumn sunshine. Will that help?
Oh yes, I mean the weather is a great factor and people are quiet in the crowd and they're feeling quite comfortable.
That's great. Hugh Chambers, thank you very much for joining us. Well, as you heard from Hugh, it is always a problem when you get this type of crowds. Anything up to 1 million and perhaps more people will be here, and undoubtedly some of them will need treatment. But Hugh made the point, the crowd here is calm, it is quiet, and there's no reason to suspect it'll be anything other than that as the cortege comes down here in about an hour and a half or so. Buckingham Palace is just there. The route you can see behind me is the one that leads all the way up to Hyde Park Corner, and then from Hyde Park Corner it goes down towards Kensington Palace.
Tim Marshall, thank you. And in Hyde Park, giant TV screens have been erected for people who don't want to line the route, prefer to see it on TV screens. Joining us from there is James Forlong. James, hello.
Good morning.
You've spoken to many people this morning. What has made them travel to the city centre?
Well, up to 1 million people were expected to come to Hyde Park. Behind me, I would think the numbers are not as great as perhaps had been expected. People are still arriving now, and we'll still be able to see the funeral cortege pass in about an hour's time. But people are coming all the time, and I would expect by about 9 o'clock the numbers will have risen. The police are here, some of the tens of thousands of police who have been posted throughout the capital to cope with the expected maybe 5 or 6 million people in total, people from all walks of life and all nationalities. Now, with me is Maria Miguel from Spain. Maria, how was Princess Diana regarded in Spain?
Oh, very well respected, extremely good, admired. The Spaniards felt that she was very badly treated by the royal family. She didn't deserve that. She deserved a lot of more kindness and respect towards her. Our royal family is not like that at all, and we are very fond of them. But because she was such a lovely and caring person, people really felt for her, and they sort of felt that it was very unjust to talk that badly about her and to plot in that political way against her. They also felt there is something behind that accident. They don't know what, but something.
Can I move to you, Tatiana? You're a student from Germany. Why did you feel you wanted to be here today?
She's been a role model for me ever since I was small. I think I speak for a lot of other people as well. She was the princess when I was small, and I grew up with her, knowing a lot about her life, basically feeling that I knew her myself.
And from Hyde Park, where people are waiting, the funeral cortege due to pass in perhaps an hour's time on its 1 hour and 47-minute journey to Westminster Abbey. Back to the studio.
James Forlong, thank you.
So the route is packed now with people. The cortege will set off shortly after 9:15 from Kensington Palace.
You're watching Sky News' continuing coverage of tributes to Diana, Princess of Wales, on this, her funeral day. One man's tribute to Diana could only have come from Hollywood. In fact, right above Hollywood. This is the work of a skywriter, Greg Stinnes, and he crafted a tribute 5,000 feet long in the air over Los Angeles. His tribute, he said, to give the princess a big hug in the sky. The meaning, Diana, Queen of Hearts.
Of course, part of Diana's appeal lay in her very modern image. She was a lover of music and a fan of many of the most popular bands. Indeed, the world of rock and roll embraced her. Once shy and self-conscious, she soon became their Princess of Pop.
From the moment she was romantically linked with Prince Charles, it was felt Diana would simply fit in. Her hair, her dress, her voice. She was the original Sloane Ranger. Jane Fincher was one of the first photographers to capture those images on film. She went on to follow Diana around the world and witnessed firsthand her transformation.
I mean, she was a very sort of innocent, naive dresser, you know, very Sloane-y, no particular individual, no glamour for sure, you know, very self-conscious of her body, so clothes that didn't really show it off, and just very young and unsophisticated in her clothes. She said later on, many years later, that she didn't look up. She knew where we were because she could hear the ladders clanking along the road, but she couldn't look up because she just couldn't face looking up at us all. But all the time it was head down, no eye. You could never take a picture of her with her eyes because her head was always down.
After her marriage, she fulfilled her duties as part of the firm, as the royals called themselves. But she was a shy teenager no more. With the public's adoration and support, Diana carved out a niche for herself.
Yeah, her wardrobe was expanding and these sort of dresses started coming out. And she was obviously enjoying the fashion side of her role at that stage. But really, sort of, you wouldn't say she was becoming really confident about 84. And then 85, when she went into her sort of dynasty stage, where she was really, oh, I've got a body and I've got blonde hair, and then it changed.
It was all a departure from tradition, a departure her husband and the royal family could do nothing about. The princess dazzled in the latest designer creations, mixing with the top names in showbiz, moving the monarchy into the 20th century.
She came in at a time when the royal family, really, their idea of trendy was, you know, the 3 Degrees. And then suddenly we've got a princess who liked Wham, who liked Duran Duran, all the bands who were big at the time. It was a revolution, really, you know, that never happened before. She really was a pop princess. She would dine regularly at Elton John's house, and I remember one party where she found herself sitting in between Richard Gere and Sly Stallone. You know, these were amazing parties, and these were friendships that she developed and weren't ever really covered in the press to any great extent.
She dripped showbiz, more at home at pop concerts and premieres with the stars than the Grouse Moors and the Polo set. This was totally new for a royal. Tradition had completely gone out of the window.
The huge gulf between them of age and tastes and lifestyles and friends was one of the initial reasons the marriage went wrong. You can see it reflected in the children when they have photo opportunities with Charles. They're looking a bit glum and formal and stiff in suits and ties. All those pictures of them with Diana in baseball caps and T-shirts that the royal family disapproved of and sneered at, said this is not what royalty was about. This is what the people now want royalty to be about, and we hope and pray that those poor children can continue some vestige of what their mother instilled in them.
For them, their mother will never grow old. This will be her everlasting image.
Well, I think she brought a new sort of breath of life in the fact that she was very approachable and very touchy, you know, because, you know, the royal family, you know, although they sort of might be at a very good cause, they're not terribly touchy people, but she was always, she would always reach out, touch people, and that made a big difference to people, you know, and I think that brought a radical change.
The people loved her for it. The palace could never quite work it out. Diana was different. It was her unique approach that has resulted in such a huge outpouring of grief. Helen Morton, Sky News at Buckingham Palace.
Up to 6 million people will be lining the route today to witness Diana's funeral procession. Hundreds of millions more watching the procession on television. 430 million people watching Sky today from 60 countries. This is Kensington Palace and indeed Kensington High Street. That's where Diana's coffin, draped in the Royal Standard, will be placed onto a gun carriage in about 25 minutes' time to make the journey down to the Abbey. Why Kensington Palace? That's where Diana had her apartment. Moving on to Hyde Park, 2 giant television screens have been erected here for people who didn't actually want to line the route but did want to go into the centre of London today to appreciate the atmosphere, the sorrow, the loss of Diana, Princess of Wales. Of course, Hyde Park Corner, which is on the end of the park there, Diana's funeral cortege will be passing there on its 4-mile route. Moving then to Constitution Hill, which runs alongside Buckingham Palace, where many people have been gathering from the very early hours of this morning. The royal family, including the young princes, rested at Buckingham Palace overnight. This is where they will be joining the procession to Westminster Abbey, up along the Mall to Horse Guards Parade. You see, of course, the balcony at the bottom where Diana waved to us such a long time ago now, isn't it, after her wedding to Charles, Prince of Wales. Moving on then to Horse Guards Parade, some 4 miles this procession in total, and some 6 million people or so expected to line the route to pay their last respects to the People's Princess. Moving finally to Westminster Abbey, the famous church which has been the setting for royal coronations and funerals for almost 1,000 years. Diana attended the wedding of her very good friend, the Duchess of York, there.
And we'll be taking a look in detail at that unique service which is going to take place from 11 o'clock. The guests will be arriving at the Abbey from about 10:15. Let's get a bit more of a feel of the crowd. Alison Jack is in Hyde Park. Alison, what's happening there?
Good morning. Well, here in Hyde Park, we've just got the first pictures on the giant screens which have been erected here, and there was a great round of applause when that happened. If we can just pan over to the screen, we can give you a look at the scene here in Hyde Park this morning. This is what everybody's gathered for. The events are going to be shown on these 33-metre high screens as they happen. It's going to not only take in the whole service, but also it'll be relaying pictures of events as they're unfolding around London. A massive sound system's been erected here. The idea is that the sound can be heard right across Hyde Park, and it's anticipated up to 1 million people will gather here. Many of the people here have been camping out overnight, and crowds are now pouring into the park as we speak. I've got some of the girls here who've been waiting for many hours. Leanne, Angela and Julianne, good morning to you. Now, you're from Glasgow, aren't you? And why have you felt that you wanted to come here today, Leanne?
Well, I just felt if I was still in Scotland, there would be absolutely no way I would be able to come. I couldn't afford it, and since I'm so close, I felt that it was the right thing to do. It made me feel better knowing I was only 20 minutes away. That's why I came.
You're on a training exercise at the moment, aren't you, to become air stewardesses? Angela, what does it mean to you? What does Diana represent to you?
I think she just represents someone that everyone admired. We all looked up to her, and it's just really a great loss. She did so much work for everyone. I think there was so much left for her to do here, and now that's all ended.
Julianne, it's your first time in London. What do you make of it?
I just find it fascinating how so many people from so many different cultures and ages have all been joined together for one thing, and that's through death. And I think at the end of the day that people can reflect on this, and this is a nation all joined together and mourning.
How have you found the atmosphere here?
Interesting mood. Very eerie, although calm. It's been very calm. Been it's been really touching. I think it's really brought it home now that she has died and she's gone. I think this will really bring it home to a lot of people now.
Do you agree with that? You were saying that you found the whole concept difficult to take in.
Yeah, I think even now I still can't quite believe it when I see pictures in the newspaper or on the television. It still hasn't really got to me. I think today by watching the service it'll now get, but I just find it really hard to believe. I just cannot believe it. It's like something that's not real. It's like it's not quite got in here yet, but hopefully today it'll make it easier to accept the fact that we're not really ever going to see it again. That's the last
I think we're royalists. We're not even royalists. There's never been any time in my life that I've ever looked to the royal family and with great admiration, but I think she's represented a woman who's very independent. She's had her ups and downs like all of us, and she's came through it. She was going through a happy time in her life, and it's all been cut so tragic. And we can reflect on that, and it can happen so easily to any of us.
In the shape of a dove outside.
Well, I think that the atmosphere here will change now that we have the pictures on the screen. It's been a very calm atmosphere so far, and I think, as the girls have said, this really will now drive home the reality of what today's all about. Back to the studio.
Alison, thank you very much indeed. You're watching Sky's continuous coverage of the royal funeral today. 430 million people will be taking our pictures in some 60 countries across the world. I'm joined in the studio now by Christopher Morgan, religious affairs correspondent of the Sunday Times. Christopher, you were telling us a little earlier about what a mould-breaking service this is going to be from the Abbey. Is there any traditional element at all?
Yes, it's actually going to begin with the traditional sentences from Scripture, which are taken from the Book of Common Prayer. That's the most traditional element of the entire event. There's going to be a traditional saying of the Lord's Prayer, and indeed the Bible reading will be from the authorized version of the Bible, which is in an older form of English. But on the whole, it's going to be very innovative because there are going to be a tremendous number of modern elements, and that's quite remarkable.
Now, the Dean of Westminster, Wesley Carr, is the man who has had the enormous task of bringing this all together, all these new elements, making it the unique service that the Palace tell us it's going to be. How well prepared has he been for this?
Well, it almost seems as if his previous career was a preparation for it, because he's written a number of books about relating the church's worship to people's individual needs. So the fact that there's been a special crafting of prayers, he, Wesley Carr, and George Carey, the Archbishop of Canterbury, have actually written the prayers which will be said for Diana and the other victims of the crash. In a sense, they've created something very special and new. He wrote a number of books. He was Dean of Bristol until the beginning of this year. He took up his post this year, and many people in the church are saying he's done a very good job.
How's the church generally reacted to this challenge of really breaking the mould? We see the church, don't we, as rather like the royal family, as being a bit stuffy and doing things by the book and the way they've always been done. Here they are being told to throw everything up in the air, really, and start again.
I think it could actually affect a number of people. I think people will come to churches now expecting funerals to be specially crafted. They won't accept just a prayer book service or even a modern prayer book service in their local churches. They'll want to see prayers like this specially crafted. I think it'll have a profound effect on church life. I think the church itself has reacted very warmly to what Wesley Carr has done. I spoke to one liturgist, an expert on worship, and he said, I stand back in admiration for what has been created for Diana.
Let's take a look at the very broad choice of music, because this is an area, isn't it, where it might have been seen as rather difficult to combine the elements of dignity with, if you like, rejoicing and reflecting Diana's own tastes in, say, pop music, with Elton John being there.
Well, that's going to be balanced, of course, by some traditional elements such as Cwmron, the Guide Me, O Thou Great Redeemer, a rousing Welsh hymn, perhaps familiar to some people, is familiar to the rugby crowds in Cardiff Arms Park, often sung at a rugby match. The Princess was, of course, patron of the Welsh Rugby Union. There'll also be a modern hymn, Make Me a Channel of Your Peace, but also some traditional sounds such as Holst's music for I Vow to Thee My Country, the hymn that the Princess chose for her wedding in 1981. and indeed some other very profoundly moving music chosen by her sisters.
Tell us a little bit about some of the logistical problems I believe there were. For example, many of the choristers had been away on summer holiday, hadn't they?
Yes, suddenly recalled. I gather they've been quite closely protected. I met a journalist from the Los Angeles Times who wanted to speak to the head chorister, but Westminster Abbey refused permission for that. But at very short notice, they've been rehearsing late into the evening, I gather, and they're going to make a tremendous contribution to this.
How early on did the shape of this service come together, and how much rehearsal have they been able to do?
I think the final shape was only agreed on late Wednesday evening, and indeed there were some elements when a news conference was held the next day. They weren't even able to tell us the sources of some of the parts of the service. And indeed, I mean, again, the great deal of care which has gone into it. They've delved into a 13th century Sarum missal from Salisbury for one of the texts.
Now, briefly, we know that these things do run with a sort of military precision. We know that the procession to the Abbey is going to take 1 hour and 47 minutes. How do we know, or do we know, that the service is going to take exactly an hour?
I don't think we do know that, because I think there's an element of emotion, and the Dean was very keen to point out that he wanted people to have time for quiet and reflection and honouring the memory of Diana.
Very briefly, Chris, we've heard Dr. Carey say today that we must avoid this danger of making Diana superhuman. Do you think that is a timely sort of a warning?
I think so. I think people are talking a lot about the nature of her religious faith, and I've talked to a lot of people who said that was profound and that she was very close to God. But there is a phrase in the service when she'll be described as a sister in Christ, and I think that will remind people of her humanity and the fact that she was trying to live out a human life, but of course created in the image of God.
Christopher Morgan, thank you very much indeed.
It looks as though the weather is going to be kind to those who've gathered in London today to pay their last respects.
Certainly, yes. In the pictures we've seen this morning, a fairly bright start down in the southeast, and indeed the sunshine should stay through much of the day, although as the afternoon wears on, we'll see increasing amounts of cloud as rain starts to make its way in from the northwest. Now, this wet weather should reach Northamptonshire around 5 or 6 this afternoon, and then about an hour after that, getting down into southernmost parts, but it will be fairly light and patchy by then. Top temperatures will reach around 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit in the south of the country, but it will be fairly breezy at times, especially in the west.
A week that scarred a nation. A week that touched the world. As Diana is laid to rest, Sky News remembers the way the country has mourned this tragic death.
She was just a wonderful woman.
She was really kind to people.
She's in the hearts of nearly everybody.
I think the whole world has lost a very, very special person.
The week the world wept for Diana, tonight at 6:30 on Sky News.
Sky News is continuing coverage of the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales. The cortege will be leaving Kensington Palace in about 15 minutes' time. Some 6 million people expected to line the 4-mile route today. Perhaps the lengthening of the route, perhaps people wanting to watch on television, but certainly up to now not as many people as originally anticipated, except on places like this, the Mall, of course, where the royal family will join the cortege on the march to the procession to Westminster Abbey. Certainly many thousands of people also in Hyde Park ready to watch the funeral procession on 2 giant TV screens there. Adam Bolton is down at Buckingham Palace. Adam, not as many people as we originally anticipated lining the route, but obviously plenty of people where you are.
Yes, although there is still room to move. I think we are now seeing the wisdom, if you like, of the changes in the arrangements, extending the route not just to Kensington Palace, but of course the sad journey north to the burial ground after the funeral up the M1. I think it does give people the opportunity to feel that they've participated personally at a number of points rather than all having to crowd into central London. The streets are bulging here, but there is still room to move. The Royal Standard still flying at the top of the flagpole above Buckingham Palace. That, of course, is the convention. Against convention, that will be lowered later on when Princess Diana's coffin passes the palace round about 10:20. Thereafter, as that processes towards Westminster Abbey, followed up the Mall by those 500 representatives of charities, the royal family will finally complete their assembly at Buckingham Palace when the Queen Mother drives over from Clarence House just over there, and then they'll be going in their cars to the ceremony, which of course starts at 11 o'clock. We still don't know quite what Prince Charles and his two sons, what role they're going to take in the procession, but clearly there is a fairly widespread anticipation that they will be seen represented close to the coffin in some way or another. But nonetheless, this is a phenomenal event, and I'm joined now by Andrew Neil, the editor-in-chief of Scotsman Newspapers and a commentator very much on the changing mores of Britain. Andrew Neil, as you look at this scene outside Buckingham Palace, what does it say to you about New Britain and what Diana meant to that Britain?
Well, I think it does represent it. I mean, Diana changed our perception of the monarchy. In the course of this week, she began to, in her death, began to change the monarchy itself and its way of doing things. And I think also this event is actually a signal that Britain has changed. This is a different country, a very different country from the one that the Queen was brought up in and that my parents' generation was brought up in. And Tony Blair talked in the election campaign about a young country. And in some ways, Diana's death has reminded us that we are a young country now. She spoke specifically and particularly to young people. I mean, even Churchill's funeral, which is probably the last great state occasion to compare with this, spoke to my parents' generation rather than to me at that time. She speaks to young people.
And it was, of course, about the war and the balance
and it was
of power
about the past. Diana was about the present. She is the only, was the only true modern royal. It wasn't just that she had the common touch. It wasn't just that she was the people's princess. There have been people's royals in the past. But she combined this modern feeling of being glamorous and at the same time having a responsibility for those less well-off in society.
And do you think that this is something, as the Queen asked overlooking this scene last night, which can unite the nation, including the monarchy, in grief?
Well, I certainly think that the Queen's broadcast last night changed things. It changed things in the short run. Whether they've changed things, and will get us through today, and the attacks on the monarchy have gone for now. Whether it changes things in the long run, we will have to wait to see. I don't think one broadcast is going to reform the monarchy, but I also believe that it will, after the events of this week, everything we're seeing out here has actually been determined by the people, and so things will never be the same again.
Andrew Neil, thank you very much indeed. Her Majesty did, of course, say that she too wants to learn the lessons of Diana's death.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Diana's body will begin its final journey from Kensington Palace in about 20 minutes' time. We can cross to Jake Lynch, who's at Kensington Palace. Jake, what is happening there at the moment in terms of crowds, first of all?
Well, there are crowds filing by here in their hundreds, as they have been all morning. There's an appreciable crowd gathered here now. People coming from far and wide. Indeed, many people coming last night to grab their space. And I think there are a few sleepy heads among the audience here, but I think they've all woken up now in the morning sunshine. It's in little under 20 minutes that we'll see the cortege pass by here behind us, and among those who will get the very first glimpse of it are the staff at Kensington Palace, who are now themselves lined up beside what will be the very first part of the route as the cortege emerges. The first thing that will happen at 9 o'clock is that a detachment of 8 Welsh guards will load the coffin onto the gun carriage. The Welsh guards, whose colonel-in-chief is the Queen and whose colonel is the Prince of Wales. So there's a good, strong Welsh connection there. The coffin will then be brought out onto the road behind me and in front of the crowds who, as I say, have been gathering for most of the night. It will then pass across behind us towards Hyde Park and on down its route to Westminster Abbey. And you know, people are saying that they are actually here determined to make one last personal connection with the princess and to remember all the good images, all the good times in her life, the images of her helping people and enjoying herself. So it is obviously an extremely sad occasion, but also a joyous occasion as well.
And an occasion which, as the Queen said, will unite the nation in grief.
Yes, indeed, and many different strands of the nation have been united here. You can tell that from the tributes. There are pictures of the princess painted by small children with their own personal messages underneath. There are tributes including a Queen's Park Rangers shirt, for example, which bears a very personal legend from the person who left that for
Jake,
Diana.
Thank you very much for that. But there we, I'm afraid, must leave you.
Final journey of the People's Princess begins in just a few moments' time. Diana, Princess of Wales, who touched so many with her humour, her compassion and perhaps her smile as well. As Elton John will say a little bit later on, the candle will burn out long before the legend ever will.
I've never told you all I wanted to say, and now it's too late to hold you, 'cause you've flown away, so far away. I took your presence for granted.